Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Frank About Health. Actually, it was unexpected that I would be doing this episode prior to the new year because I had said on my last episode approximately a month ago that I would see you all in the new year, but this show could not have, um, it had to happen before the new year. And there are several reasons why. First of all, today's guest, Jeffrey Demitrak, is kind of a relative to talkradio.nyc. Let me explain how. Those of you who have been watching the show for the past year have seen me interview Sally Kalksma as she has gone through her life explaining how to champion it through cancer. Also talking about mindfulness and positive thinking. And then we had a 2-hour show with Phyllis as well as two other friends of hers where we talked about their books and how they've been able to move mind over matter and think positively given their life circumstances. There have been other kinds of shows, but Sally Kalksma happens to be Jeff Demitrak's cousin. So that is one reason why I had to have him on the show. Reason number two, anybody who's been watching Frank About Health since the beginning has known that I started the show with Sam Leibowitz over at talkradio.nyc to be an advocate for epilepsy. I, Danielle Swanson, started both the 2016 edition of Frank About Health and the 2021 edition talking about epilepsy. And right before the end of the year, we're going to talk about epilepsy again with Jeff Demitrack, who also suffers from epilepsy. But there is a difference in this particular context. I've been advocating for mental health the last several months. We've been talking about cancer and COVID and diabetes and other mental health issues. And Jeff has a book called Dating in the Dark that talks about the complications that an epileptic patient has to endure when trying to have close, intimate, personal relationships. They can be relationships on any level, friends, family, co-workers, but especially those that we all seek, intimate partners. And when you are an epileptic patient, it becomes almost like the secret that keeps on giving, depending on how you present the message, either to your significant other or if they witness you having a seizure. And we also want to clear the stigma on epileptics. Epileptics are people too, and they are entitled to loving and intimate relations. Simultaneously, the individuals have to be educated on what is going on with the mind of an epileptic patient so that they don't have to feel frightened and look that who they have in their life is actually someone that you want to keep at arm's length when it doesn't do anyone any good other than continue to reinforce the stigma that epilepsy has had for so many hundreds of years. Now, I have been advocating that regardless of whatever anybody's differences are, neurologically, mental health wise, or even if you're carrying any disorder, all it takes is active communication. And that's what Jeff is going to spend the next hour with us doing, talking about his book, talking about how important it is that we go ahead and discuss openly about what it's like living with epilepsy. We're going to hear some of his stories of what it was like when he was first discovering, uh, that he was having seizures in front of his dates. He's going to tell us about the book. I have not been. I mean, this is kind of awkward for me to talk about because I want to yet explore the book with him during the show. But I'm also trying to pay tribute to talkradio.nyc and Frank About Health before the holiday season because all of us are going to be with family and friends over the next 2 weeks. And we want to be able to celebrate or pre-celebrate the holiday season by wrapping up this year's episodes of Frank About Health where it all began, which was with epilepsy.
And I want
So
to thank you, Frank, for this platform to talk about epilepsy. I want to thank Sally for the introductions. She introduced us, and I want to thank talkradio.nyc for the platform as well. So, and when it comes to stigma, stigma and epilepsy have been connected for way too long. So we have to rid epilepsy of the stigma. And I was talking to you about this a while back, and when it comes to epilepsy and stigma and epilepsy and invisible illnesses, these things are not just um, we want to spread awareness, but we want to get rid of it by educating everyone. We don't want to alienate anyone because really epilepsy can strike anyone at any time. It's so important for the public to realize that.
Mm-hmm. And,
Yeah.
but before we go into further discussion, I want to issue my disclaimer to everyone that if you are an epileptic patient or patient on any kind of treatment plan, whatever your illness is, be mindful that this episode is to provide insight and enlightening discussion into the topic at hand, and not to dissuade you from your existing provider or your existing medicinal treatment, whatever that may be. Remember to always consult a doctor or your primary care physician if what we discussed tonight provokes questions and reconsiderations. You must talk to your doctor to make those decisions and choices. And we also want to say they are not the opinions of Frank About Health or talkradio.nyc. But Jeff will be able to talk about his book this afternoon, Dating in the Dark, and be able to give some insight, especially for those epileptics that might be watching that can identify with it. I know that some of what he's already discussed, I can
Well,
identify with.
I have a an Instagram page, and I give my opinion on a whole range of subjects. And really, the disclaimer is so important. I mean, you should always consult with your doctor, your neurologist, your epileptologist, and the people that you always consult with about your epilepsy before you make any decisions. I like to give my opinion about the subjects and my advice, but really, when it comes down to epilepsy, it's a case by case matter, and really, it not like one medication might be great for someone, but a bad reaction for another person. So it is so important to have that disclaimer. And
Right.
when it comes to my Stages of Epilepsy Instagram page, I want that disclaimer right on my page as well. So
So that's another reason why I had to have him on my wrap up show, because I think we're brothers in disguise. So I'm just glad. Thank you, Jeff, for coming on today's show. And I know that I probably gave you the longest introduction in history, but the point is that your appearance today is so relevant, especially because as we go through the hour and talk about your book, we're also going to talk about the future of the show and of how we will be collaborating together, including with Danielle Swanson, who's been on the show with me before, including Sally as well. And also, you'll have a chance to meet Phyllis Quinlan, my normal co host, and we'll have a chance to really work well together in 2023. All right. So, Jeff, tell us about Dating in the Dark, if you were to
well,
give a 1 or 2 line summary about the book.
well, Dating in the Dark is an interesting book. I talk about my dating disasters with epilepsy, and really, experiences with epilepsy. There are a lot of disasters, and really, it's not just about with epilepsy. It's about with anxiety and psychotic breaks too, which I've experienced many of those too, and that's a result of head traumas from having seizures. It's a result of bad reactions to medications. It's a result of seizures, one right after the other, with it, which is called status epilepticus. So,
Mm-hmm.
but some of these seizures were not necessarily grand mals that weren't able to stop. They were complex partials right after each other. So I would go into my postictal, so I'd be coming out of it, but then I would go into another seizure, and so I never my brain never had a chance to put itself back together again, because that's how I like to say what's happening in the post seizure state, that you why a person is confused and they are wandering off. They might be aggressive. They might be infantile. You really don't know how a person's gonna act during their postictal stage, because the seizure shook everything up in there, and the brain's trying to put itself back together again.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably saw that we're about to take a break, but I want to review for everybody. Dating in the Dark is a book about his life in living with epilepsy while he's engaging in relationship, both opportunities and disasters. However, for those that want to have epilepsy 101, there is post traumatic epilepsy. In his case, it appears as though he developed seizure disorder. I think you said at the age of 10, but it was after having a bout with Lyme disease and after having a fall down a flight of stairs, which led to some head trauma. Simultaneously, there is the genetic based epilepsy, grand mal seizure type, which I was diagnosed with right here at the NYU Langone Epilepsy Center, which is where we're broadcasting from tonight. But simultaneously, the thing is that it is still how the brain has more control over the human body than we give it credit for. And I think that's one of the secrets that patients suffering from epilepsy can actually use as both something that generates stigma, but to our advantage if it's used focused and appropriately. All right, we will when we return, we're going to delve into some of those quote unquote dating disasters and learn from Jeff what he's learned from and to help educate each of us. All right, so when we return with Jeff right here on talkradio.nyc and on our YouTube channel, we will be more frank about epilepsy and its mental health consequences. So please stay
Okay.
tuned.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hey, and welcome back, Jeff. So you were saying dating in the dark was an experience that I gather you really reflected from in order to write the book. So why the title Dating in the Dark?
Well, a lot of times I would find myself, going to a date possibly, and then I would have a seizure, and then I would find myself in an alleyway, and I would be in the dark, hallucinating and speaking to my hallucinations, and there's a character that is based on a painting that was in my room, and it was a painting of a one-eyed Jack. So I call the hallucination Jack because it was I started seeing a visual hallucination, and so I started talking back and forth to Jack and about what's going on and what should I do next about my dates and stuff, because it was I would have auditory and visual hallucinations, which psychic auras are it's a rare thing, but it does happen, and when
Really?
people have seizures. Yeah.
You call them psychic auras? You mean psychic as in predicting, or psychic
No,
as
psychic auras means that they're just it's a warning, and you're having hallucinations. So instead of just maybe you having deja vu, or you're having some tingling in your arms or something, you're having hallucinations. So they call them psychic auras because it's a little bit you know, I guess psychic. It's in that area of the brain, in the temporal lobe, where the I guess psychic people would you
well, the
know.
temporal lobe of the brain registers feelings, emotions, memory, sometimes even speech patterns, things like that. I gather my question for you is that when you would go through the seizures, is this prior to a date, during a date, or afterwards?
It was a bunch of different times. That's why I Jack could show up whenever, in many different experiences. It could show up in the aura. A lot of times it showed up in the postictal because I had been having so many seizures, and I was confused. I didn't know exactly what I was experiencing, so I started having hallucinations. So I used to call them there is actually a technical term called twilight states, where you're having you're having psychosis because of you know anxiety, and so many different mental um, maybe because of your epileptic episodes and stuff. So
And this would be while you're conscious or during an actual seizure.
well, yes, I'm the I yes, you could be unconscious, and it's like you're in flux between consciousness and unconsciousness.
Incredible. So, when would you say would be the maximum amount of times that you would have a seizure in your teens, in your 20s, or was it since you had onset at age 10?
You mean
Because
when
for
did I
me,
have the most seizures?
well, yeah, but the reason why I said let me be more direct with you. My type of epilepsy is genetic based grand mal epilepsy. Now, as a result, it developed during puberty. They said for me, I was about 14 or 15 when it happened, but when it first started. And the thing is they say that during puberty, when the hormones are raging and stuff like that, it actually can be a trigger for those that are genetically predisposed to having epilepsy. So as a result, I don't know if there was an association between my frequency of seizures and my actual libido, let's say, or if it was something that due to the high levels of stress I had in my life in high school at the time, I may have had some play like having sleepless nights and a lot of stress for exams or whatever in triggering those as well. But in your case, if you started at age 10, I would imagine that the frequency of those seizures may have been different or less than what they would have been in your teens and 20s. So that's what I
No,
was
no,
trying to get
not necessarily. When I was first diagnosed, my seizures were very severe, and the doctor, said to my parents that when seizures are this difficult to get under control, he's probably never going to be controlled. At one point, a doctor said that to my parents, and and my seizures have changed over time because I've tried so many different therapies.
right.
I mentioned to you that I tried neurofeedback sessions, and I did a lot of neurofeedback over time. And
Mhm.
really, I used to only have grand mal seizures, and I didn't have an aura when I was younger. And now I have complex partial seizures. I still have grand mals, but I don't have them as often. I have auras now. So my seizures have dramatically changed in the last 30 years, and really, so neurofeedback did wonders for me in how severe my seizures were.
You were able to use neurofeedback to claim ownership over your epilepsy and have some say over how you were going to have your seizure, whether it was in a social situation or even in private. And having the aura, I mean, that's your gift, that's your message, that's your instinct saying, "Up, something's happening. Let me prepare."
Well,
So I think
yes.
they offer you.
Although sometimes, well, when I had an aura, I would, do things that weren't necessarily good for uh, good for me. Like, say, I was working out on an elliptical, and instead of getting off the elliptical and laying down on the floor of a gym or something like that, I would try to run out of the gym because I didn't, I was panicking during my. A lot of times I would panic during my, or I wouldn't tell a loved one. I wouldn't tell my parents I was having a seizure because really I just I my
It feels
first instinct.
humiliating.
Yeah, my first instinct was to get out of the situation, get away from people, but really because so many times people made mistakes while I was having my seizure, and a lot of times I didn't tell my dates. That I there was one time I didn't disclose my epilepsy. I was in a crowded restaurant, and she didn't know I have epilepsy. I wake up, I'm banging on the table, and people are looking around and stuff, and she's horrified, and so this is all in my book, and so of course she's not going to want to go out with me again. This was, and she's trying to get out of the restaurant, but the bill needs to be paid. They're asking her what should we do? What's going on with him? Is he gonna be okay? And so like, and she has no idea what exactly is happening. And so
Incredible. Well, I mean, aside from that, was there one particular date or experience you had that you probably write in your book that indicate how you were able to hang on to her even after going through seizures or even after having a discussion about your seizure history?
well, you mean that one girl you're talking about, or?
Well, you explained an example of one particular girl that was obviously shocked in that situation, but
Well, that
are
was.
there other dates that actually were more successful than that?
Oh, yes, definitely. But well, just about disclosing your my epilepsy on dates. I think that people have asked me about that, and I disclose when I feel comfortable to disclose, and I think that that should go for everybody that has epilepsy because it's a question to them. I don't think it's a matter of feeling ashamed that they are not uh, disclosing it. Oh, I'm ashamed I have epilepsy or something. They don't want to scare people away. I mean, the first when they hear the word epilepsy, they're like, what is this? What is this? I don't know, and they'll run away. But if you are have a spark with someone, you have chemistry with someone, you start to get a vibe with them, and then they're more understanding about your a chronic illness, and they're more understanding about you when you say, yeah, well, I have to live with this. I have epilepsy, and I need to live with this. And so I'm hoping that you can live with this too.
I mean, and I gather now that you've been doing neurofeedback, you've probably been going on dates that are relatively more successful than they had been in the past. I'm hoping.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
and my relationships also have improved over time. I have a girlfriend now, and she's very understanding. She has been very helpful to me, and these this all comes with maturity too. When I was younger, I would take chances. I would drink. I would stay up late nights. I would do things that people with epilepsy shouldn't be doing on medication. I would take a lot of risks. I that you shouldn't take when you have epilepsy. So I mean, I can think of an instance right now that I was out with a girlfriend and we were drinking into the late night and doing things that people do when they're not getting any sleep. And
But hold that, because we're gonna have to take another break. But the thing is that I wanna kind of wrap up that dating in the dark is both a preview of what went on and a preview of what you have learned, pretty much, right?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
see the timeline as I mature a little bit, and it's just I'm not fully mature. I mean, I still have my immature moments, as does everyone.
Yes, but we'll talk more about that right here on talkradio.nyc, both on our YouTube channel and, of course, on the network. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law business law attorney and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back. Now, Jeff, you were about to tell me a whole story of an instance where you and this other girl that you were dating were really going wild and doing the things that you weren't supposed to be doing, especially under treatment.
Yeah.
I gather that's covered in your book, but my question is, would that have been the point at which you knew you had to not only reflect on what's been going on while going on dates while suffering with epilepsy, and what you needed to be more mindful of going forward? Was that the pivot point for you?
Well, actually, I was going to say that, this girl, she wasn't looking out for my best interests too, and really I was sleep deprived. She had better things to do. She needed to do things. She needed me out first thing in the morning, and really it would have been I needed to sleep, but really at that time I had my license, and so she was like, oh, well, you got to drive home now. And I was, I had been doing all these things. I'm sleep deprived. I have a ride ahead of me. And it was the time I lost my license, because really I ended up having a seizure while I was driving, so and I crashed. So, I mean, I had an aura, so I was able to pull over and stuff, but yeah, I still totaled my car because while I was pulling over, I was going like 5 miles per hour, and I hit like this tree that was, and totaled the car, and that was the end of my license. That was the last time I drove.
So they didn't suspend it; they revoked it, so you can't get the license back at all.
No, I suspended because of epilepsy, because I had a seizure. I would have to be seizure free for a year when it comes to New York laws. But
I see.
I don't think that will ever happen, though. I mean, since 2009, I have not been seizure free for over a year.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, for example, I mean, it's only been 2 weeks since December 1st began. How many seizures on average have you had since the beginning of the month?
Oh, I usually have 10 per month, but really I could have a good month, which would be about six or something, but I could have a bad month which could be about 20, 25, and usually they start off like a grand mal, and then I'll have smaller ones like partial seizures, a complex partial, and they'll be in clusters.
Wow. So, what would you say the majority of them are for you? Complex partials?
Yeah, mostly complex partials, or
Can you describe that?
a combination of a little bit of a shaking and choking noises. I get a lot of that.
But you're conscious.
Sometimes it's I'm half conscious, like I feel I'll see what's going on, but I can't move my body. I feel the pain, in my legs or something, or only one side of my body can move or something. So I'm on the floor and like really all tensed up and stuff. So a lot of times, that when I'm feeling anxiety, like say you asked me about anticipatory anxiety and stuff when I'm doing something. Is it possible I could have a seizure on a show? It's very possible. I mean, because any type of social activity, that's what kind of causes it for me. I mean, that's why I've had so many seizures when I was out on dates, with women. I've had them at work. I've had them I've had them dealing with family in when usually when I'm arguing with people. Stress is the biggest aspect of epilepsy, and people need to stay away from it.
Yes, yes. But we live in a world where stress is par for the course. So, I mean, I gather you are probably taking your medications religiously, even though you have the average of 6 to 10 a month. The thing is that you are under control, and like you said, the neurofeedback, and you have a gauge with your auras as to when things are happening. So you probably put yourself in a lot of situations that help keep you as safe as possible. Correct?
Yes, I mean, I live a very stress-free life, but I don't work the hours that I used to work, and that gave me the opportunity to write this book, and I hope to write about other topics that is related to the epilepsy community. I want feedback from the epilepsy community about the things that they want to hear about, and really I have a whole bunch of experiences that I hope that I can share, but I want people to learn about it. I want people to not make the same mistakes I made.
So, what would you say that the book in itself has a lot to offer the reader, especially those that want to purchase it after seeing tonight's show? The reader also being a non-epileptic patient, for example, may
Yeah.
future daters of epileptic patients. Like,
Well,
what does it offer to them in terms of knowledge?
well, I think that when it comes to intimacy and detachment, that people there's so much of that in relationships today, and people want to learn more about how I can get close to someone, what and everybody has these expectations about how I can do better. I in my book, a lot of times I was in a relationship, and it was only a short-term relationship, but the person that I was in a relationship with was looking for something better. I was looking for something better. It wasn't anything that was going to be long term. And really, everybody today, it seems like, they don't want anything that is going to be long term. They're not ready to make that commitment. And I think but once you do make a long-term commitment, it's very, very valuable for your life. You start to, other pieces of your life start to fall into place.
Hmm. Exactly. I totally agree. I guess if anything, though, would you say that there are things that after you finish writing the book, you left out that you want to write about next?
Yes, I would love to write about how people with epilepsy, when they lose consciousness, they lose control, and in their life there's a loss of independence. They have to depend on their loved ones for this and that, and really they need to fight back for their independence, and they and depending on other ones and for all these things, it's really something that will cause a mental illness. It will bring them into a depression, and
Yeah.
really it's very upsetting to a lot of people. And that is something that I really want to focus on, because really something like that is not just related to dating. It's related to, you depend on family members. You depend on, just your neighbor. You say you have that you might only be able to ask your neighbor for something, because a person with epilepsy, they can't drive a lot of the times,
Hmm. No, I totally understand. I mean, it seems to me that when you were writing Dating in the Dark, you were creating your story of your purpose here, being an epileptic individual, and at the same time trying to get your independence back on many levels. But I gather one of the things, like you've told me, is you haven't actually been able to find the one, because so much confusion and chaos seems to be always interfering in it. So you, I guess, are becoming, you're actually sublimating that by becoming a mental health advocate of sorts, correct?
Yes, I mean, really, I started my Instagram page, Stages of Epilepsy, because I wanted to be an advocate for people with mental illness. I wanted to be an advocate for people with epilepsy. I wanted to help others, achieve their goals, just support them, support the community, do what I can, and
Right.
just get my story out there. Encourage people, other people with epilepsy, to get their story out there. I
Yes.
want to help. I want to help them, and really, I want you to get your story out there, Frank.
The way that you did your wallpaper is a way of you advocating the story that I've been trying to move forward right here on the network. I mean, it's interesting. You could tell the intergenerational difference because of how epilepsy was so stigmatized, even as early as 25 years ago. And yet when I did this show in 2016 initially, I called it Frank About Health because I knew already people were not going to see a show entitled Frank About Epilepsy.
Yeah,
It just has that, ooh, why?
yeah,
But when COVID hit, that allowed me to be frank about all health issues. And of course, give one or two slices of epilepsy on occasion. That's why you showing Dating in the Dark as a reflection of what I've been advocating with mental health and neurological health issues this past year basically is where I thought, okay, we come together right before the holiday time. So we have a convergence of two like minded individuals who are advocating for the big healthcare picture. We do come from areas of mental health and epilepsy, but at the same time, we want to have integration and awareness that epileptics are people too, you know? And it's just a question of being able to collaborate together, which is the message that I know that I'm sending out to everyone who's watching and listening right now. We will be doing that in 2023. So
no,
I just wanted to say that again, thank you for coming on tonight's show to talk about your book, ladies and gentlemen. It is available on Amazon.com. I am guilty for not having read it in detail yet, but it is a must read. I'm going to point and click tonight and get it in time for the holidays. I hope you do the same. And we're about to take our final break. And when we return, we're going to talk about the future of Jeffrey Demitrack and Frank About Health, among other things. So please stay tuned right here on talkradio.nyc and on our YouTube channel. We'll be back in a few.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic.
Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. Now, Jeff, thanks to you and your preparedness for today's show, I already have the synopsis of everything we've spoken about. So I'm just going to read it through for everyone to get the takeaways after the show ends its live recording. And of course, I know people from your various groups, based on your Instagram posting, are watching this as well. So hopefully, if they choose to share it amongst their communities, this could serve as a piece of education for those suffering with epilepsy and the significant others that are dating them. That being said, I know I'm kind of like reading directly from your words. So I just wanted to make sure I got all the precise message across for everybody.
Okay.
The epilepsy community comes out with mottos like, don't be afraid to say you have epilepsy. But when meeting someone for the first time, I believe a person should disclose their epilepsy when they feel comfortable to do it. It's not because the person is ashamed of having epilepsy, but it's very easy to ruin the mood of a great conversation. But that's what happens when coming out and saying, by the way, I have epilepsy. Once a person living with epilepsy and getting to know their date there is the right time to disclose. I second that, but I also like to add, who knows, maybe when you know that the time is right, that means it is the right person that you want to really go forward with. So maybe that's the hidden secret that you had a chance to explore.
Yes.
At the same time, it is important, and this is for everyone out there, that sleep and regulation of your downtime, being very mindful when dealing with epilepsy, especially times.
Well, also, I want to add that there might be very severe cases that it's a necessity to share that you have epilepsy because of safety reasons. And really, that's not my case, but it might be the case for other people. And so if that's the case, and they say, oh, I need to tell people all the time when I'm going out in public that I have seizures, because they could have a seizure any second, that is up to them. They need to make that decision.
Correct. And also, I think we also mentioned that even when you are dating a significant other, if he or she is basically having an illness of their own, not necessarily epilepsy, the epileptic patient should be informed of that, so that they can, at least through the experience of taking medications, having empathy, understanding protocols or precautions, you'll be able to empathize and understand that individual's needs as well. So I guess that's one aspect that you want listeners and viewers to take away, that to not only be mindful of when is the right time to disclose their epilepsy, but also find honest and open communication with your significant other if they should have, whether it's epilepsy or another disorder.
Yeah,
Correct?
so when a significant other has a chronic illness that they're dealing with, a person with epilepsy, they might not be able to drive, they might not be working, but they know about dealing with the routine of medication. They know about empathy, like you mentioned. They know, they just know about adversity. They know about a whole host of issues, and they can be supportive in ways that maybe someone that wasn't dealing with an illness or hasn't dealt with an illness can't be. So really, there's ways that a person with epilepsy can be resourceful that they maybe haven't thought of, and so they just have to realize what those ways are.
Right, exactly. But the bottom line, the common thread in all of this is open and honest communication. After all, if you don't have open communication, you don't have a good relationship. No relationship can survive without communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
very true.
The other thing is that just going forward, I know that epilepsy is such an umbrella topic. Aside from mental health, there were the topics of cannabis. There's the topics of special treatments involving surgery. There's the topics of socialization. There's the topics of different organizations to join and become advocates for. So I know that you and I together were talking about probably having in a few months from now an event, a live event where we would have an audience as well, people who have both been on Frank About Health or probably a part of your groups that you're part of that you advocate for, would be able to gather together and network with each other and possibly even be able to discuss some more of the, whether it's the intimate natures of what's in your book or even some of the other details that are not appropriate for podcasts, but at least are more engaging in real time with real people in the same room. That is something that I know that you and I and Danielle Swanson have had a chance to talk about planning. And that's a hint for everyone who's a watcher of Frank About Health. We will be planning an event in the spring of 2023, and it will probably be at a Hilton location, but yet to be announced. But at the same time, Jeff, you and I will be in discussions, not only with Danielle, but also with Sally and some other people that have been on the show, Phyllis Quinlan as well, and just do what we can to really come up with a collaborative workshop series, if you will, because advocating is not, it's good on a podcast. It definitely sets the stage, but it needs to be constantly reinforced in a much more live venue, academic and or hospitality area setting, and it could really have value for people on many levels. The other thing is that I know that here we are headed for a 2-week hiatus from broadcasting new episodes. I was already on hiatus, but I knew I had to close the year out with you because of the plans for the future. So is there anything you'd like to let the viewers know about what you're going to be doing the next 2 weeks, especially when it comes to advocating or spending time with family, or anything else that you'd like to inform others to be mindful of during the next 2 weeks?
Well, for the holidays, I'm having my brother come to visit with his 3 kids. So he's in the military and he's stationed in Japan. So it's a long trip for him. So I'm looking forward to that, and I don't get to see them very often. So it's pretty much going to be family time. It's just watching movies, going to light shows with a lot of Christmas lights and a lot of stuff like that. So ice skating, different things. So just having fun with the family pretty much. And I'm looking forward to it. And but I'm also looking forward to the new year because there are some epilepsy walks coming up in the new year, and we have one coming up in March. I believe that one is in Phoenix, and I hope to promote my book there, and it will be the Dating in the Dark group. You know how you have groups in these walks and stuff. So I'm gonna make a T-shirt of Dating in the Dark, and there's gonna be another one in May, which is in DC. So I hope maybe that I can pick a bookstore nearby, book these walks, and do a book signing there, and hopefully I can start working on the projects that we had in mind. We said that we might want to do some writing together. So
Could happen. I mean, I know that as I've been taking my hiatus, I've been developing my relationship with Hilton to be the show's event sponsor, among other things. They're still in the works, so can't disclose any more than I can. But I can disclose that things are looking up right now, and it's a question of giving the thanks to the very people who helped me get to that point, and that would include our show's network producer, Sam Leibowitz. His show, The Conscious Consultant, announced in his last episode today about it doesn't matter how, it just matters what you want to accomplish in 2023. So let me tell you again, Sam, if you're listening to this episode, I want to thank you for that. Even though you were talking to your white audience, it was just very meaningful knowing that I was having this show tonight. That is exactly what Frank About Health is going to be thinking in terms of what we envision 2023 to look like. And it doesn't matter how, we just envision it and let the universe take over and guide us all together. But it does work in a collaborative effort. And so thanks to you for introducing me to Sally, who in turn introduced me to Jeff. And you also introduced me to Phyllis, who's now the co-host. And you've introduced me to so many other people that I will be bringing on the show in the new year. I have to thank you, Sam Leibowitz, again, for all the work that you do with talkradio.nyc. And of course, what we together will be doing in the future, assuming everything as planned happens as we like it to happen.
Yes, as planned. It's that is always the big thing. A lot of times in my book, I say, things don't always go as planned when it comes to relationships, and really that is just how it goes with epilepsy too. Really seizures take away the experiences in your life. You might have something planned out that it looks great on paper, but then you have a seizure right beforehand, and the time goes by, and really that whole experience is lost. It's really something that everyone with epilepsy can relate to.
Everyone with epilepsy can relate to, but then they also learn the secret, which is that they have to be ready for plans B, C, and D to come out whenever they come out. Always get ready to pivot. And I can also attest to what John Lennon said, which is life is what happens while you're making other plans. And in general, even though I talk about what I planned, like I planned not to return till 2023, but then you and I had a conversation, and here we are. I always allow for the unknown to occur, because that is the way life is, whether we like it or not. And I think the biggest light was shown when we all suffered from COVID-19 over the last couple of years. Everybody was put into their own day-by-day experience with no long-term thinking allowed for it, because whatever you would plan would change at a heartbeat's notice. So ladies and gentlemen, I just have to say again, I want to thank everyone who has had a role in Frank About Health during 2022, as well as the ending part of 2021. If you recall, I've had guests like Sally Kauxma and Danielle Swanson and James Swanson, and I've had Judy Mandel, and I've had Ben Lytle, and I've had so many people that are, I definitely want to name them all, but we only have a couple minutes left. Georgianne Dow, many of them, Sam Leibowitz was a guest on the show. We just have to point out that a show like Frank About Health cannot occur without a community of people, each advocating for various health issues, whether they are their own or whether they are the healthcare issues of others. And that is what I'm looking forward in 2023 to do, which is to further advocate healthcare issues going forward in a much more live venue forum that we've already hinted towards. And we want all of you out there to spend the last 2 weeks of 2022 commemorating, reflecting, relating with your loved ones about what you want to achieve going forward. Make your dreams happen as you can. Allow for the changes to occur if they need be. Always get vaccinated if you need to, but simultaneously also be mindful that if you need to reach out to me or to Jeff, Jeff has his Instagram page. I have my email, which is frankrharrison1@gmail.com. You have the catalog of shows that I have done on YouTube as well as on Facebook Live, and as well as on my own personal channel, www.frankrharrison.com. And you will get to see more episodes of Frank About Health in 2023. There is going to be the return of Danielle Swanson. There's going to be the return of other shows with Phyllis. We're going to have some new guests that are probably from the Hilton Hospitality Group. And we're going to get more involved with NYU Langone, and that is yet to be unveiled. But a lot more will be headed in 2023, and I am advocating for future podcasts to include live audience participation. So those are some of the insights or my vision for the future. And I just want to wish you all a very wonderful holiday season, whether it's Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, and of course, may 2023 be the year for you after the last 3 that have gone by while combating COVID. COVID now is working with us. We're not submissive to them anymore. As long as we are using the right
Amen to
information.
that. Yeah.
Exactly.
And good. And thank you again, Frank. This was great. I had a great time.
Yes, and so did I. And we will be in touch. Oh, by the way, when this logs off, I will call you right away so we can follow up. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, just stay tuned for tomorrow's block of shows, the last 2 shows of the year on Talk Radio NYC, which are always Friday with Steve Fry and Philanthropy in Focus with Tommy D. And then hopefully this show will re-air during the holiday season. But I will see you in the new year with a new and interesting backdrop and a vision for the future that will make talkradio.nyc look better and brighter than ever before. Okay, those are my wishes. And thanks again, Jeffrey. And we will all be back next year. Have a wonderful holiday season. Speak to you soon.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Yes.